How to win with Necrons in 8th edition? Time to have a look at the Necron troop choices. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, time to have a look at our Necron troop choices in 8th edition. Before we do that though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Right, let's have a look at the troop choices. And I have to be honest, I'm incredibly excited about the two units that we have in the troop choice selection. Because at the end of the day, our Necrons are Terminators. They can't be bargained with. They can't be reasoned with. They don't feel pity or remorse or fear. And they absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead. And that's why we love Necrons. Right, okay, so we're going to have a look at Immortals first. But quickly just compare the two. So the main difference between an Immortal and a Warrior is in the stat line of a 3+ save on the Immortals and a 4+ save on the Warriors. Warriors come in at 12 points and the Immortals come in at 17 points. So you've got a 5-point difference, you get a 3+ save, but you do get better weapon options. And that is what everyone is talking about on Immortals. So the standard weapon option that the Immortals come with is a Gauss Blaster, and that's a 24-inch gun. It's rapid fire, so 2 shots at 12 inches, and it's -2 AP, strength 5. It's a pretty decent gun. However, you can change that weapon for the same points cost for a Tesla carbine. And that is a 24-inch gun that shoots 2 shots, and any 6s that you get an additional 2 hits, so 3 hits from a 6. That's pretty good. Now it's AP 0, so there's no AP, that's the downside of it, but you're certainly going to get a good volume of shots. And that's just looking at that gun by itself. Now if you factor in a few other things, like My Will Be Done special rule, you can then add one to your advanced roll, you can add one to your assault roll, and you can add one to your hit roll. It's very key what it says in the rule book. It's add one to your roll. So you roll your dice and then you add one to it. So if you roll a 5, you add one to it, it makes it into a 6, and that means you get 2 extra hits. So now you're getting 2 extra hits on 5s and 6s. That's pretty powerful. Now, add in a Triarch Stalker, shoot at the unit you're shooting at first with the Triarch Stalker, then your Immortals can re-roll the 1s to hit. That's pretty good. So now if you roll a 1, you can re-roll it, you've got a 33% chance then of getting a 5 or a 6, or at least getting another hit, plus all the 5s and 6s from the first roll will be gaining 2 dice. That's going to be a lot of dice from just a 10 squad of Immortals. And on top of all of that, this all works in Overwatch as well. So the My Will Be Done rule is done at the beginning of the Necron turn, and it lasts until the beginning of your next Necron turn. So when you get assaulted, 5s and 6s will give you 2 extra hits for each one, so basically 3 hits from any 5 or 6 that you roll. That's pretty awesome. So you can see why everyone's raving about Tesla Immortals, and without a shadow of doubt, they're going to be the best troops choice. But as you know, in this series, I'm not just looking at the best things. I'm trying to evaluate the codex and work out how possibly other ways could be useful with this army. So let's go back to the Gauss Blaster. Now I mentioned that it's -2 AP. Now -2 AP is actually pretty awesome. Now admittedly it's going to be less shots, it's going to be less firepower, but it's still pretty awesome. So I definitely wouldn't rule out the Gauss Blaster, especially if you're in a gaming environment where you don't want to be that guy, because Gauss Blasters are still very, very good. They're very potent, they do a lot of damage, and you won't be seen to be cheesing it out as such. So imagine you've got a unit of assault marines, they've come in just over 9 inches away from you, they fail their assault, you can now rapid fire those guys to death. -2 AP, that means that those assault marines are only going to get a 5+ save. And as Tyranid players will know, a 5+ save is nothing. So really, really good in actual fact. Not as good as Tesla. 100% Tesla is the way to go. If you want to get the best from an Immortal, take Tesla. Add in some of those extra rules from some of the characters as well. You could even add in Illuminor. That will give him on a 5 or a 6. You can then make that unit hit on 2s. Even more awesome. So yeah, still don't rule out that Ghoul's Blaster though. Especially if maybe you're lacking some AP in other areas of the army. The chances are you probably aren't, and we're going to go straight on to Warriors, because Warriors have a gun which is -1 AP. So it's not as good as a Ghoul's Blaster. It's not as strong, it's a strength 4 as opposed to strength 5, and it's -1 AP as opposed to -2 AP. However, on a 12-point model, a Troop's Choice, which is very readily available, -1 AP is really, really good. Now, we've discussed unit sizes in the previous video when we were talking about Reanimation Protocol. Again, and this is why I'm really excited about the Troop's Choices in general, is because we have so many options. You can take just basic unit of 10. You can take a massive unit of 20 and make them really survivable. Or you can go in between, have a unit of 15. And that is what I'm starting to think I'm going to be leaning towards. I think maybe a unit of 10, that's going to be my bait. I'm going to ignore the RP rule. And then maybe backed up by a couple of units of 15 models. And I think that'll be quite a nice combination. Throw in some Immortals, and all of a sudden, just from our core troops section, we've got a force to be reckoned with on the table. And that's why I think our Troops Choices is actually very, very solid, and I think very cinematic, very themed. That's how Necrons should be. Big blobs of foot robots just moving forward 5 inches, pretty slow, but moving forwards, and when they get into range, their firepower is pretty deadly. And they're survivable on top of that as well with the RP. So I think on the whole, are very, very good. The other thing I want to just touch on is cover. So with both of these units, if we have them within cover, we get +1 to our save. So that is making an Immortal have a 2+ save in cover, and a Warrior having a 3+ save in cover. So these make great units for sitting on objectives, as well as great units for pushing forward as a phalanx, as an army. In actual fact, you could have some smaller units maybe sitting on objectives, and then you can have more units flanking up. So it is quite possible to actually field an army pretty much of just troops and your HQs, and still have quite a force to be reckoned with on the table. And like I said, I think that's great because that gives our army so much flexibility. You know, we can take minimum troops and just go for all the other stuff: destroyers, heavy destroyers, flayed ones, wraiths, flyers, annihilation barges. You know, there's so many great options in the codex. Or you could say, I'm going to take 60 warriors. You know, I'm going to take loads of Immortals with Tesla, and they're all still good. And I think that's great, and that is what I'm loving. I'm loving about this new index of ours. Now, there are some additional tactics that can be used, and I am going to direct you to another video by a different channel called Super Wargamer, and he's covered some quite, let's say, cheesy tactics for Necron warriors. He's got some great ideas. I highly recommend you check his channel out anyway, because he's just like me. He loves Necrons. He's been playing Necrons a long time. He used to play 7th edition Necrons outside of the Decurion and do very, very well with them. So tactically he's very sound. I would definitely suggest you check him out. I will put a link to his channel in the description below. I'll put a little card at the top as well for you to go and check him out. But yeah, that's what I want to cover really in this video. On the whole, we have to say the troop choices are really, really good. In terms of tactics, choose your gun, stay out of trouble, stay in cover, shoot your enemy. There's not much more to it really, to be fair. As I said, we've got all of the extra bits and pieces from the characters, etc., that we can use, which I've sort of half covered. We're going to cover that more when we look at characters. We're also going to cover other tactics that we can use to protect our warriors, to protect our immortals, things like bubble wrapping with, say, scarab swarms, etc. So there's definitely a lot more to come, which will cover the troops choices. But for now, I think that's it for this video. Right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Monday in the next episode of Win with Necrons in 8th edition.